I've only played D&D a couple of times, but I'd say the first time I was in a game was probably the worst. I've got a couple of friends from America I've known online only for 10 years now, but about 5 years back, one of them was dating a woman who offered to DM a campaign for us. Now, an important thing to note is that we're all adults who met and made friends through adult material, and one of the things this campaign was going to have was adult material. We were all happy to explain our limits and where we were comfortable. The first session started, and it was text-based only through a Discord server. I think I was playing an elf, and my friend was playing an orc, and the DMPC was a bard with a massive charisma modifier. I can't remember the exact details, but we met in a tavern, and I believe my character and my friend's characters were asked to do something explicit. Having barely started the game, we both refuse. The DM proceeds to roll a 35 persuasion check and basically forces our characters into a scene together. Naturally, we both quit the campaign on the spot and left the Discord server. The second time I played D&D was with a friend I'd met in college, and he invited me into a campaign that they were already playing. I again let it be known that yes, I'm a girl, but no, you guys don't have to tone anything down for me. After my player character, rogue human woman with a proficiency in improvised weapons, so I could basically be Catwoman, flirts with an NPC, the DM has my character and his do a scene together. He asked me to roll a performance check to see how well my night goes. Let's just say it went badly. Even if I personally do not understand it, I wish that the people who desire a great, amazing D&D romance, I hope those people find what they're looking for. Because I'm starting to think that decent D&D romances are the major minority. In my late high school years, some members of my friend group had started a very light and casual conversation on Dungeons & Dragons. It was mostly talking about what they thought about it, and if we'd ever get into it. He didn't show up until later in the conversation, but one friend, we'll call him Host, was bouncing with joy hearing us talk about D&D. He told us he was a fan of the game, but never had the opportunity to get people to play it. Seeing the opportunity, he pitched to our group a D&D game where he could be the DM in his own homebrew world and we could be his players. 3 of us agreed, including me. Right then and there, he created a group chat for us where he discussed his plans and fantasies for the game. Aside from Host, we were all completely fresh to the game and had only a vague idea of where to start. He didn't give us anything aside from read the manuals. And I did just that. I got my hands on the 5th edition player's handbook and printed out some character sheets for the other 2. After going through the book, I figured a paladin would be fun, and I planned to go with Oath of the Ancients. I told Host about this, and he said I couldn't do that because paladins can't be druids. I pointed out that I got this from the player's handbook. If it's written there, surely it's permitted. His reply, "This is my game, and I say paladins can't be druids." He never elaborated more than that, and refused to allow this character. Friend 2, however, she was treated way differently. She went with a young elven ranger, and she made it very clear that she wore tattoos instead of clothes. This wouldn't have been so bad, but she didn't grossly over-sexualize this character on top of that. I tried to voice my discomfort to Host, hoping that he could rein her in a bit, but he told me stop being a prude about it. To this day, I still don't understand why he allowed this favoritism. It didn't take more than a week, but we had done about all we could do as players to prepare for the campaign. Host insisted. He was still preparing, and we'd have to wait a bit longer. He planned to make his own physically drawn maps, towns, NPCs, monsters, everything would be of his own creation. The issue was, he was taking weeks to do it. He was so fixated on his ambition that he didn't see we were losing interest. After about 2 months of waiting on him, we gave him an ultimatum. We either start within the week from that point, or there isn't going to be anyone for this game. Host was not happy about this at all, but he made this one single compromise to make it happen. In the group chat, he posted what would happen. Our characters would be starting out at each end of the world, and we'd be meeting in a set place after he put us through our own mini campaigns. Each session will be focused on one character at a time, and he expected everyone to be at his house for every session, no excuses. No one was into this idea, as it meant 2 people would have nothing to do, and we all thought we would be starting together. He wouldn't take no for an answer. I asked how long would each session be. About 9 hours each? I think in that moment, all of us knew the kind of hell we'd be in if we agreed to this, so my friends and I dropped out right then and there. He tried to guilt trip us back for the next few days, but that was not happening. We had much better things to do than sit around and use all of our free time on this nightmare. Whew, yeah, that was a smart move there. This DM has a lot going on. I mean, the DM doesn't have a lot going on in the sense of they don't have a session ready, but they have a lot going on in terms of problems. That's something. For starters, 9-hour sessions, I mean, that might work for some groups, but the vast majority of people are not going to sit around for 9 hours playing D&D. I love D&D, and even that is a bit much for me. These people aren't experienced with D&D. They're brand new, and you want to put them into a 9-hour session? Yeah, no way. Splitting up the group too, not great for brand new players. Maybe as some kind of tutorial, but making the other people sit around while you have a solo adventure? Yeah, terrible idea. Why would you even do that? I'm starting to think the GM's excitement in the opening was more due to the fact that they would get a captive audience to tell their story, not because they actually wanted to run a game, which, yeah, unfortunate. This is a story that happened just yesterday, and I decided to post it not only because it was fresh in my mind, but because I want other views on what happened. One day I decided, after watching enough Critical Role, Done the Drake and Crit Crab, as you do, to finally play Dungeons & Dragons. The story begins shortly after I joined our library's D&D group for my first D&D sessions. The normal campaign's DM got sick, and since then, we've been rotating Dungeon Masters and one-shots for the past couple months. A nightmarish boot camp for a beginner like me, since the levels change randomly, but that's a whole other story. I'm actually having a mostly good time with all of the players, except for one. Since he's the DM for most of the story, I'll just call him that from now on. DM is what I believe is called a min-maxer player. Now, I, being new, may be misinterpreting this, but I'll give you guys some examples that led up to the conflict. He often creates unusually powerful combinations of combat-focused characters. He's got 2 friends in the group who do the same. For example, he teamed up with his friend to create an artificer paladin who used holy power to automatically power his guns, which he enchanted to fly around his turrets, usually being made in a steam-powered vehicle workshop, while also being the prince of a kingdom and a retired soldier who does 40 damage with a hit of his warhammer at level 4. In contrast, I was a cleric, and I have no idea how they created stuff like that. Dude, as a DM, I don't know how they did that either. It made it hard to roleplay because he was basically just super strong, smart, and had respect from certain NPCs. Honestly, when they don't do this, they actually make pretty fun characters, but it's a rare occurrence. But that was just the main campaign. When it was time for him to DM things, it took another turn for the frustrating. He ran 3 one-shots with the main conflict happening in the third one. I feel that I should mention briefly what happened in the previous 2 before I get to that one. That way you may understand how people reacted, or why people reacted the way they did. The first one-shot was against what we thought was a clock tower monster, but turned out to be an eldritch time god baby incubation machine? I tried, but I really don't understand what it was outside of that, and I still don't. His friends, after strategizing with each other, killed the boss with their collaborative spell. In one single blow, the session was over and the rest of us didn't even get to play. Now, it could be said that as a DM, he can't ignore actions done within the parameters of 5th edition. They may be min-maxers, but I'm pretty sure they're not cheaters, as far as I'm aware, that is. Overall, it left a few of us feeling left out. The second one-shot had us fighting against death. Not really a background other than we fought death, killing a village, and decided to fight. I asked if it was clarified that we were fighting literally against death, not a god or a metaphor, just death itself. All of us were fixing for a long fight, and even though my level 15 sheet hurt my brain to read through, I was ready. Most of us missed our attack since apparently death has an AC above at least 18. Then, death sends a magical attack. None of us make the 19 or higher saving throw, and we all die. Except the DM's friend, let's just call him Sorcerer, had a huge backstory from another campaign. The gist of it was that she knew the family of death gods and was willing to pay off her family debt to save us and punish this death. I asked, but I still don't understand what is death and if there is a death god. Anyway, so first he teleports us to the death dimension, and the literal Deus Ex Machina comes in, grounds the evil guy, and saves the day. I was definitely not feeling like we had a victory by this point. We had only fought for 1 round, and had functionally no roleplay outside of Sorcerer, since Death seemed to know him. I should say that the Sorcerer claimed he had no idea what the antagonist for the one-shot was going to be. He was told the day of by the DM that it would be related to Death, so he decided to pull out his character from their campaign, and either the DM said it would be fine, or he basically lucked out with the one spell that could have saved us. This will come back again. Finally, the time has come for the last session. It's a continuation of a one-shot I missed, and all I'm told is to bring a level 7 character. Before it starts, myself, a blood hunter, sorcerer, barbarian, and ranger are all talking before the cleric and DM log onto Discord. When the subject came to the DM, I expressed some concerns since he seemed a little trigger-happy, is how I first put it. The sorcerer actually agreed and said that his friend was known to cry out in frustration if he didn't get the min-maxing that he wanted, and he bragged about his TPK sessions. He loved those. And the barbarian mentioned how he was accused of fixing some of his dice rolls and was mildly known for it in another campaign. He never used a character with an observable weakness or ability below 12. So my mood wasn't exactly peachy going into this. The session begins as my blood hunter and the ranger wander into an empty town covered in blood. We find a flickering hut in the center where the other players have been hiding. We learn in the last session they barely scratched their enemy and were only able to survive because, by sheer luck, the sorcerer had a protective hut spell. We have to hurry in as a giant hole opens in the ground and voices whisper out, mocking us. It's 70 feet away. A failed arrow shows its AC is higher than 14 at least, and no one wants to leave except me. I make a history check as a blood hunter to try and learn what the monster is. It's a fake Hydra. That is a fake Hydra. I mean, I don't know, but it's so terrifying. The DM says the blood hunter knows nothing about it. I'm confused as it just dug through the ground and I had assumed it was just a giant worm. The DM shows us a picture and appears to be a normal Hydra. The sorcerer then mentions how it was a creature of death, and my confusion only increased. It destroyed the ground beneath our hut, and we crashed 40 feet down, which is apparently how big it is, into a giant hole with only one tunnel and no light. This is where the party tries to brainstorm a way out of this mess. The sorcerer can't risk too many spells or else the hut that we're hiding in is gone, and even then he has no spell to get us out. I suggest moving the hut since the cave is 60 feet away, and we think the fake Hydra is there, but the hut's too heavy to move. The ranger gives up since the fake Hydra is outside our firing range, and she tries to climb the wall. She rolls a 14, and the DM says she falls and takes damage. Suddenly, the fake Hydra bursts out of the wall and attacks her. We roll for initiative. The ranger gets hit with 50 damage, and I miss my attack. I'm already pretty nervous. My hit points were only at 46. But everything gets worse when the fake Hydra lets out a screech and puts out a devastating magical spell. For some reason, which escapes me, this fake Hydra can every turn screech a song that erases everyone's memory of it unless you roll a 19 wisdom save. Not only does this mean you re-roll initiative, but you also lose any information on the fight or the Hydra. I asked, and I still got no explanation as to why there is a Hydra that is fake, and a worm, and an eldritch being, and a memory eraser. I managed to get a good attack in with some fire damage followed by radiant damage. Fire, because fire defeats Hydras in mythology, and radiant, since it's a creature of death. This is my best guess as to its weakness. The Hydra turns to me and uses its 6 heads to deal out 100 damage. My character is dead. I'm stunned. DM waves it off, since we have a cleric, so as long as he didn't hit me with double my health and damage, I'm fine. Except that's exactly what he did, and I told him. I was one-shotted. No saving throws, no revival, and only 2 rounds of a fight, and the game is done for me. The DM basically said, oops, oh well. He decided that he can just leave me at 0 health, and hopefully the cleric can get to me in the middle of running away from the 40-foot monster. I refused and tried to numbly explain that technically that didn't solve the problem of nerfing the one attack. With something like that, how could we possibly beat it? Just as the DM is arguing that he didn't have our sheets, so he didn't know our HP, the sorcerer decides to cast a homebrew spell that will call a monster of death to her aid that will kill us all by dragging us into the death dimension, thus killing everything. Sound familiar? It's just like that last one-shot, even down to the way she called the god for aid. Basically, the only way it looked like we would win was by pure luck, with a homebrew spell that would literally kill all of us. I kinda snapped at that point. I said that this wasn't fair. We've been playing for hours and couldn't make any progress. From that point, the argument went back and forth, getting gradually more heated. Like so. Me, I hit with fire and radiance and nothing helped. DM, it is actually supposed to have resistance to all attacks that aren't of specific magic. I even removed that feature to make it easier for you. How was I supposed to know that? I even rolled to get more information, but you told me nothing. Blood hunters only deal with normal monsters. They don't know anything about world-ending monsters. World-ending monsters? But we're only level 7. I thought you would face world-ending monsters once you get close to level 20. Ranger jumps in. I think what she's trying to say is that our characters had no way to deal damage or leave effectively. Look, what I made was a puzzle. That's what I always do. I put you in unusual situations to get you ready for a longer campaign. You wouldn't have even survived this long if not for my other one-shots. I can think of 7 different ways you could have won. How? We couldn't climb out, and the fake Hydra is tall and can go through the rocks apparently. We couldn't move this hut. The Hydra didn't even have any weaknesses. Yes, it did! It's in the dark! It likes the dark. If you could shine a light into its eye, which I did. Remember fire and radiance? Sorcerer did the same thing, but he dismissed those attacks and said that they weren't going into its eyes. Then you could have stunned it and ran into the tunnel. It's a Hydra, not a mole. It's a fake Hydra, not a pseudo-Hydra or a real one, a fake Hydra. You still haven't explained what that means. And running back into the tunnel, where it had a clear advantage, if not for Sorcerer and your homebrew magic, we would have died. Again. And this time, we still died. And we lost. DM's cleric friend jumps in. If you don't like his DMing style, then stop complaining and don't come. But he does this every single time. It's not fair for the rest of us that he enjoys destroying our party like a kid kicking down sandcastles at the beach. After that, the arguments just kept going, although they lost more of the heat since I felt more defeated than angry. The Sorcerer and Barbarian tried to play the middle ground and keep the peace, while the Ranger and the Cleric fought because one was interrupting the other, and they both took opposite sides. It ended on a sour note with the Cleric quitting because of the long-time drama, which I had never noticed before the session, and because she felt disrespected as the founder of this group. Everyone left, and while the Sorcerer may have convinced the Cleric to come back, but no one is sure. Now the server is offline. The Barbarian is the library representative that runs it, and she says it won't be open for a while and not until after a new program guideline is put into place. And that is if anyone really does want to come back. And that was what happened yesterday. I never thought I'd end up with a horror story of my own just a few months into D&D, but there you go. After all of that, I feel rather guilty, to be honest. I shouldn't have been short with the DM. I should have saved my gripes and privately discussed them, but I felt like my past frustrations were building up with the fact that no one seemed to be doing anything. But in truth, I don't fully know the game. Maybe it really was fair? I still hold the DM could have explained it better rather than making me feel like an idiot, but my initial reaction was immature. What I started may have been the catalyst to end the group for good. If you guys know my DMing style, you know that stuff like this just really pisses me off. 2 of my favorite D&D sessions I've ever run in my life are sessions where my party lost the fight pretty decidedly. One of those sessions happened a couple weeks ago. I run difficult combats. I love putting my party against something that makes them sweat and watching them overcome it. When they lose because of a reason that both they and I understand. But here we see a DM who takes that philosophy and tosses it right over the line between difficult and frustrating, a principle we talk about in the Tavern a lot. This DM did not have 7 different ways the party could have won. The DM had one specific way that the party needed to specifically say in their wording that they could not have possibly known about. If the Hydra's weakness is light, then fire and radiant should work. But since they didn't specifically say they hit it in the eyes, apparently it doesn't work, which is just, well, that's BS to say the least. I mean, it checks out. I don't think this DM is a min-maxer. I think this guy's a cheater. I think he creates BS homebrew, tries to force it into the games, and then make himself the most overpowered character, giving his friends ways to just one-shot everything. The reason you make things difficult, or at least the reason I make things difficult, is to challenge my players and make victory feel earned. It's not so my friends can just one-shot it and make the new people feel bad. Oh, God, this is a terrible new player experience. I'm sorry, man. So I wanted to try a more free-form D&D game where we could make our own characters and some of our own lore, and my DM, who was also my friend, agreed. Characters in the story are the DM, who's my friend, and his girlfriend, Casey, the problem player. Me, the warlock, a friend of the DM, Dino, who is another problem player, and sister of Casey, Stella. So, Session 0 started off, and I asked if everyone was willing to try a more mature, dark-themed Dungeons & Dragons game, maybe with erotic themes and dirty jokes. And since we were all adults, late 20s to early 30s, everyone agreed and said I could go wild with my character. But if I go too far, they will tell me. Okay, so in the Session 0, I started out as a warlock, and I am worshipping a dark entity known as Aratsa? We'll go with that. She is a goddess of erotica, or demoness, depending on the culture you ask, and she gives me more power the more sex I have. So every time my character... Aratsa gives me a random bonus, such as an extra spell slot for a day, extra cantrips, or a bonus armor, or bonus on attack, etc. Also, my character receives bonuses if he can make other characters do that thing. DM agreed on this, and I could tell his girlfriend was not happy about it, but we continued playing. So, the problem started when I tried to use my homebrew spell to hypnotize 3 village girls into a foursome with me. They can roll for wisdom saves, but they needed to roll high. My spell succeeded on all 3 girls, and I was about to do the deed when Casey complained to her boyfriend. I explained it would be a fade to black, and I could use these erotic bonuses for our next encounter, since we were about to fight some bandit gnolls. But she still complained, and I said I'm doing it anyway. Then her character, some female elf rogue, interrupted my character and the 3 girls while we were going to the tavern, and she scared the girls so they ran away. I had an in-character conversation with her. What is the meaning of this? And her character was all like, I will not let you use those poor girls. And so I was like, maybe I should use... Ah, crap. We lost another one. Lost a... Yep, okay. I could tell her boyfriend didn't like this because we're friends. I left it on that, though. Although, I totally could use my hypnotize spell on her character if I wanted to. So, after we cleared the encounter, we could do whatever we wanted in town, and I decided to seduce Stella, who's Casey's sister. She was, at the time, single, so I figured, like, you know, why not? Her character was human, female paladin, so I thought there might be some sweet corruption going on, maybe moral degradation, you know the drill. So we had a small in-character talk where she didn't approve of my deity, but she's willing to tolerate me for the greater good, and I liked how she was playing hard to get. I noticed Dino, the human fighter, kept trying to butt in on the conversation. I figured he was going to try to warlock block me because he kept saying things like, move on, dude, or let's keep going. Where is the hurry? So anyway, our characters spent the night in the tavern, and I said to DM, I want to sneak into Stella's room. Both Dino and Casey protested, but thankfully the DM allowed it. I cast my spell on Stacy's female paladin, and since she was sleeping, she had disadvantage, so I successfully hypnotized her character. At that moment, both Casey and Dino's characters barged into the room and started in-game arguing with me. However, this was pure metagaming. Like, how did their characters even know I was there? And I said as much to the DM, how they were obviously against me playing my character, to which they all agreed. So anyway, I left, and I got no apology or invitation to play with them again. So yeah, I got the message. Well guys, we did it. We have an incel story from the first person point of view. It was bound to happen eventually, and here it is to a quite negative effect. Frankly, this guy should have been kicked way sooner in the game. I am not someone who likes saying stuff like that because I believe that everyone makes mistakes. They should give people a chance, but this guy had a few chances, and I'm glad that this group managed to get rid of him fairly quickly, though I will say, DM, what the hell were you thinking? Why would you even allow that subclass? Holy shit. So let me give you some context. I had this group for like a year or so. There are 3 boys, all friends beforehand, and me. I met them in another campaign, and we created this group to keep playing after it got cancelled. Our main character is one of these guys. We'll call him Andrew, because if I call him asshole over and over again, I'm gonna run out of curse words in this video, so yeah. Anyway, he's 22 male, if that matters. Andrew was not in the first campaign with us. In fact, he had never played TTRPGs before, but the first campaign ran smoothly. We played Cthulhu Tech, had 23 sessions of the best campaign I had in my life. Somehow, even though the players were quite terrible, but I can stand a lot. Our DM decided to keep hosting a few more games, which led to Cthulhu Tech Part 2, our most recent campaign. Andrew was invited to this campaign alongside the other player in Cthulhu Tech Part 1. Meanwhile, I was searching for another campaign because I need to have more than one at the same time, and I encountered this amazing, absolutely incredible, fantastic Dungeon Master. He's hosting D&D, and a friend of mine said he won't be able to play, so he wants me to take his place. I entered D&D paradise. He knows the books, something none of my other DMs do. He knows how to twist the books. He knows about classes, subclasses, and races I have never heard about before. He opens a whole new world of role-playing to me. I send him some backstory, asking if 1.5 pages is too much. He says it's too little. I can write more. You don't know how happy I was to know I could actually write a backstory instead of just a quick summary I knew no one would read. He reads it, tells me what he likes, gives life to my NPCs. I fall in love instantly. Best DM I had. Sorry for this rant, but he's truly amazing and it needs to be said. Thing is, and this is the controversial part, I create my character to be quite apathetic when it comes to gender. He just doesn't care about what pronouns are used on him, nor what clothes or how the rest of the party treats him. It becomes kind of a meme between the other members of the party. Having, as I had a problem with playing LGBT characters in the past, I asked my DM if it is fine, and he answers by saying it is. Actually, he decides to give it a little twist and tells me that my character's caretaker is actually non-binary, and that I could use that as a reason for my mindset about gender. Everything goes perfect. Everything goes fun. I have so much fun I decide, oh, how stupid I was, to go to my friend's server and tell everyone how much I was enjoying the roleplay, and how much I enjoyed playing with the book for once, getting to know my class, being able to play as a new race, and being able to play a character under the non-binary umbrella. This chat is not only for our roleplay group, there's a lot of friends of mine here, so this message was for more of them. But Andrew saw it, and he was not happy. So I get a DM from him that roughly translates to, "Hey, not meaning to offend you or anything, but I don't get it. What's the need? Why do you need to go around saying what your character's gender is and stuff? No one should care about that." At first, I took it in a good way for some reason. I thought he truly meant, be yourself, you don't need to justify anything. But man, was I wrong. I tell Andrew that I said it's because it's something that makes me happy about how the DM and the party acts, since I had some bad experiences before. He keeps telling me how labels are bad, and we should avoid them. He says, I was born in the wrong generation. All these labels and stuff didn't exist back in the day, and things were much better. Stuff like that. I tell him to please stop, since I was just minding my business, and it was 2 a.m., and I didn't want to have a discussion about how I created a character he knew nothing about. But he insisted. He started kind of fighting himself. I told him he couldn't just ask me to shut up and not annoy anyone, just as he wouldn't go to a pride parade and ask someone to go back home because there's no need for labels. For some reason, he thought I was calling him homophobic there. Well, I mean, you're not wrong. He started calling me names, specifically asking me if I was drunk or on drugs, or if I was... At some point, I got fed up of his nonsense. I told him to stop disrespecting me. So he got angry and said I was toxic, as he always suspected. And then he blocked me. Oh yes, I suppose I'll have to leave the Cthulhu Tech campaign now. But it's so incredibly stupid. Him getting angry over a character he doesn't and will never know. Him insulting me over a D&D character. Just terrible experience. 1 out of 10 would not recommend. TLDR, player gets angry I made a non-binary character for a campaign he's not in, so he starts insulting and blocks me. So now I must leave the campaign we're both in. Frankly, no you shouldn't. He should leave the campaign you're both in. I mean, you should ask the DM about this, and if the DM sides with this guy, then obviously I think we have a wider problem. But before you bail, ask around to get a vibe check on the rest of the group, see how they view Andrew's little rant here. I don't know Andrew at all, but in this moment, Andrew was acting way out of line, getting this offended just because your character is non-binary, because there's a non-binary character in a campaign he's not even in, is just ridiculous. The OP was talking about how much fun they're having, and Andrew responded by getting upset because somebody has an identity that he apparently doesn't like. Which, yeah, unacceptable, not good. And I don't think you should lose out in the game because this one guy is being a dick. Frankly, if anyone should go, it's him. Obviously, there is a possibility of bias. Andrew is friends with the rest of the group, and if you lose out in the Cthulhu Tech game, that sucks. But on the other hand, it seems you found an amazing D&D group. So, you know what? That's awesome. Congratulations on that. You seem to really enjoy the game, and I think that's really cool. Man, we almost ended on a positive note there. What is this? Another channel? Well, in any case, if you guys enjoyed this episode of RPG Horror Stories, then please do leave a like. If you want to see more of my content, then you can check out our Crown of Deceit podcast with Whistle While You Work, Crit Crab, and Jesse Jerdak adventuring through one of my own homebrew D&D adventures. It's linked to the cards. And while you're there, subscribe to Crispy's Tavern to get more of our content as it comes out. And finally, if you want to leave your own stories or thoughts, go down in the comments down below. If you can't think of a comment, leave the comment, cancelled, Really? To let me know you made it to the end of the video. And hey, by the way, if you want to submit your own stories for a chance to be featured in one of these videos, the inbox is linked in the description down below. But even if you don't have any stories, and that's like, comment, subscribe, I'll see you all next time. Farewell.